Hello everyone, this is Honey Thief, and I'd like to present to you my Haruhi deck. This deck profile is going to be on the Japanese version of Haruhi and Weiss Schwarz. It's the deck I used to win the Season 2 of the Discord ladder, and there's really not much content about the new, or at least the latest Haruhi deck in English, so I figured I'd make a video profile about it. So we'll start with the level zeros. I'm going to start with the simplest card. I play 3 of this Brainstorm. This gives 500 to center, and then pay 1, rest self, Brainstorm. And you can salvage a Brigade Leader or SOS Brigade character. One important thing to note about this is that you cannot get everything in the deck. Unfortunately, there are some key cards that you will not be able to get with this card. I'll go over them, but you can get everything else, so it's your main Brainstorm. It's what you're going to be using to mill, and I play 3 of them. The reason why I don't play 4 is that you have other ways to mill through your deck, and the 4th card would just be overkill. It's not that useful late game sometimes. So you don't necessarily want to see it all the time. You don't want it clogging up your hand. You have a lot of selectivity in this deck to get level 0s and level 1s. So I only play 3 of these. Next, another card from the Power Up pack. This is the level 0 Mikuru. So this has on play, from hand or memory, you can mill 2 cards. And then when it reverses its battle opponent, it goes to the draw phase, to the memory, and then at the beginning of your next draw phase, it comes back. And you can place it anywhere on the stage. And you will also be able to mill again. This card is pretty good. It's only 2k, so it's not going to get over too many level 0s, but anything that's mostly a utility card, it will get over. It also mills, so it lets you get through your deck faster and will get you. Also, if you need to mill in the late game, you'll be able to just use this to put 2 cards into the waiting room. If ever you get a reverse at level 0, this is basically a free plus. So it just reads, if you take 1 extra damage, you might take 1 extra damage, and then you get a free plus. So this card is really good. This is one of your main plussing level 0s, but you have a lot of them. I think all of your level 0s give you some sort of advantage in this deck. So this is pretty good. Also, one thing that is to note is that it disappears from the field, and that'll be useful with another card. So I play 3 of these. Again, since all of your level 0s plus, you don't necessarily need to have 4 of each. 3 is fine, and it also will fix a little bit for green. Right. Next, I play 4 of this card. This is everyone knows the Ricky. But on play, pay 1, clock yourself, and search for a level 1 or lower character. It also has on attack, you can give another alien or SOS Brigade character 1k. So this card is very good because it will get you whatever you need for level 1 or level 0. And it can also give 1k to this card. So, for example, you play just any random level 0 when you're going first. If they kill that level 0, turn 2, you can play this, plus grab a card from your deck, and then on attack, you can, for example, if you grab this, you can send this to 3k, which will go over a lot of, or most cards, most level 0s, unless they're oversizes, but which means that then this will plus you again for the next turn. So you're tri-fielding, but this will also come back the turn after. So this card is very good. This is what I play 4. It also fixes for blue a little bit. You don't necessarily really want to clock it at the beginning of the game because you'd rather play it, but the power comes in handy for a lot of cards because you do have to deal with reverses in this deck that does not have that much power. Yeah, so 4 of the Nagato Riki from the Power Up set. Next, I have 3 of this card from the Sneaker Bunko set. This card is extremely strong. It's very easy to overlook, but so what it does is on attack, you look at up to the top 2 cards of your deck. You put one in the waiting room. Sorry, you put one back on top, and you put the rest in the waiting room. So you can look at up to 0. You can look at 0. You can look at 1, and you can look at 2. Second effect is when it attacks, if you have one or less other characters, you can mill the top card of your deck. If it's level 0, you put it in the back. So this card is really strong. I only play 3. I'm thinking maybe to play 4, but I think 3 is fine. What it does is, first of all, in the beginning of the game, it lets you check that you have clean triggers. So you don't necessarily want to use too much stock in this deck, or you don't necessarily want to have to pay out climaxes that get stuck early, because you do use a fair amount of stock. So any card that's at the top of your stock, you really want it to be clean. So that's one thing that this card does. The second thing is that it lets you choose your triggers, and that's very important because this is a standby deck, and so sometimes you're going to need to push damage, and so there are times when, even in late game, you're going to be crashing with this, but you're going to be using this card and looking for triggers, or checking the top card of your deck to make sure it's a trigger before you attack. So then you'll be able to have 2 soul with this, which is pretty powerful. Second thing is that this also can plus, because you look at the top 2 cards of your deck. In the beginning of the game, if you only have one other character, if there's a level 0 in the top 2 cards of your deck, you'll mill that, and that'll go to the back row, and that'll be a nice little free plus. This synergizes really well with these 2 cards. The reason why is, if you have one of these and either of these, on your second turn, you can grab the one that's remaining, and then have these in your tri-field. You can attack with this, give power to this one, which will get to 3k. You attack with this will go off the field, and then this will only have one other character on the field, so you'll be able to use the bottom effect, where you can get a level 0 on top from the top of your deck. So this is very powerful. It lets you just keep plussing even though you're tri-fielding, which you do want to do to get more stock at the end. So this card is very good. I find myself looking for it even in the late game, or even at level 2, because this deck does not do too much at level 2, just to either push small amounts of damage or to look for triggers. This card is very good. You cannot get it with the Brainstorm right here. And you also can't give it power with this. It does not have SOS Brigade traits. So that's one thing to keep in mind. You're going to be salvaging it with your level 1 combo, or grabbing it with the Ricky. Right. Next, I play 2. This card. This is the original Clean Cut. It's 2k, and the only effect is whenever it reverses a character, you can choose another one of your characters, rest it, and then move it to the back row. This card works well again with the Ricky, because you push it to 3k, which is still not very big. That's why I only play 2. It's not a standard card, or it's not a staple in this deck. But it also works very well with this, because you can attack with this, so make sure that this is your first trigger, have a clean trigger, then you attack with this, send this to 3k. This probably died if you're crashing it into something, and then if you reverse something at 3k, you can send this to the back row, and do it again next turn. So yes, 2 of these. Sometimes, this is very rare, but you will be able to use it a little bit in the later game, because you do have some cards that give you power. So this can be useful, but I only play 2. You might be able to cut it down to 1. It's not that important, but it's still a nice card to have. And finally, 2 of these. This card is kind of like the Ricky. It's a Takitsubo, so you can pay 1, clock yourself, rest it, and then search your deck for a level 1 or lower character. It also has the effect that whenever you play a climax, you can bounce it to hand and give a soul to a character. This is very good In this deck, I only play 2 because I have 4 Ricky and I value the power more than the extra soul. But since your level 1 climax combo is a standby, you're going to want to be able to push a little bit more soul. So this helps you achieve that objective. It also helps late game if you want to side level 3s with your Trouble Girl Haruhis to hit for 1 and 1. And then whenever you play a standby, it'll bounce. So you'll bring it back to hand, and you can just keep, if you want, you can keep clocking yourself and getting other cards. There are some times in this deck when basically you play with an empty front field. And if you're compressed enough, you will cancel out, especially if they have to keep playing climaxes, depending on what deck they have. And so you can actually, keep clocking, or at least doing more than you would usually want to, more than you are usually used to, because you keep canceling and grabbing this card, pushing for more damage, they die, and just recurring that. So that's it for level 0s. I play, that's 4, 8, 12, 17 level 0s. So it's not too high. It means that with this, you won't necessarily get that many 0s from the bottom effect. But since you can still check the top 2 cards of your deck, it's pretty nice. One thing I also forgot about this is that you can, if you want, trigger standby when you want. So this will help you dig for a standby to trigger, or for a door to trigger if that's what you need at the time. So this is a really good card. Next, we're going to go to level 1s. I play 4 of this Nagato. I did not like this Nagato at first, but it's useful in certain matchups. So you do want to play. I play 4 of them, so it can't front attack a character that's that's a higher level than itself, and this is level 1. So there are some matchups where you'll want to completely disregard this card. Or actually the majority of standby decks that play level 2s, and then some cards that have, for example, off-time Makoto, or something that gives a level to the other card. This is also fairly useless in the late game. But the reason why I play it has a second effect. Whenever one of your SOS Brigade or alien characters is front attacked, you can ditch a card and sack this to give the defending character 3,000 power. And this is very good against decks that need reverses. So against decks that absolutely want to have reverses, you can line up 2 of these, or even 3 of these, and it'll basically make their day a lot worse. If you can push enough damage and or get one of these cards out, depending on your matchup, having just 2 of these and the 2/2 back row that I will showcase later that gives 1/5 to the front, it means you'll have 2 1/0 7/5s that can sack one another to give 3k. So that'll be 10/5. So what they can do is put all of their resources to reverse 1. That'll be 10/5. And then the other one will sack itself, so they won't get that many reverses. So usually it's not worth it for the other player. However, some decks can just completely disregard that, and so that's one thing that you need to know with the matchups with this deck. There are some decks that will just not care, and then you don't want to play this at all. You can just forget it. Some matchups where it's very important, some matchups where it's absolutely not important. But 4 of these, this is a standby deck, but you rarely want to actually play standby at level 0 to bring this out because it's fairly low value. However, if you trigger standby and you have this in your waiting room, it doesn't hurt to bring it out, but you never really want to, like, for example, some like SAO or other decks where you play a standby at level 0 and bring out your big level 1. You don't want to do that in this deck at all. Unless you have 3 standbys in hand, and then sure, you trade one of the climaxes for this. Next, I play 3 of this card. So this is from the Sneaker Bunko. It's a level 1 climax combo. This card is pretty good, but it does have some glaring flaws. So I think I actually really like how this card is designed. First, whenever you play it, you mill 2 cards from the top of your deck. If they are Sneaker Bunko SOS Brigade, or it gets 1k for each Sneaker Bunko SOS Brigade card milled in this way. So you do have a lot of Sneaker Bunko SOS Brigade cards. There are a few that do not work. Actually, most of your level 3s don't work with this, so you don't want to mill level 3s with that card. Second effect is whenever you have the standby, in Climax Zone, on attack you can pay 1, and then you give it and another character on reverse salvage character. This is how you're able to grab this card and some of the other cards that are not SOS Brigade that you cannot get with your Brainstorm. So I only play 3 of this because you really only want 1 on the field. You want 1 and you want it to reverse something. It's 5/5/6/5. Usually it'll be able to reverse something, straight level 0, and then you'll use either this card or the next card I'll show to get another reverse, and you'll be able to grab 2 cards in hand. And you'll just be able to do that once. If you do it twice, you're going to use a lot of stock, and that might be a problem in the later game. That's why I only play 3. The mill also helps you get through your deck a little bit faster. So I really like this card. On defense, it won't do much. If you have the 2/2 in the back, this might go up to 6/5, but usually you want them behind. You want the 2/2 behind this. So this will die, but you know that's fine. You got your 2 reverses, so it should be okay. The main problem with this is that it's on a standby, and that means that you're not pushing much damage at level 1. This deck is slightly built to counteract that, but that's still a problem because sometimes you do want to push a lot of damage. The problem is if you don't use this to plus and to get your level 2 out, you're going to be, for example, just pushing damage with a door, and then you're going to have to clock yourself with the Reiki or the Takitsubo to regain hand. So you'll be pushing damage, but you'll also be taking more damage. So that's just one thing you want to make sure if it's worth it or not, depending on your deck state. So yeah, three of the level 1 combo. And 3 of this level 1 bomb. This is a PR from the Sneaker Bunko set. So it's level 1 bomb, very simple, but also has, whenever you refresh, you can put this card in stock. So this is another way to get reverses at level 1 for this, if you can't beat over them, or if they have counters or things like that. So some decks, if they have thick level 1s, hopefully you can kill a stray 0 with this, but then everything else you'll be killing with this. Not much to say, except that this card is also very nice to stand by out randomly. For example, when you trigger, you have nothing else, because when you refresh, it'll go into stock. You can do some pretty cheeky plays if you have a lot of hand, convert this into stock. So this is pretty nice. Also, if they need reverses and you have these and you're about to level up, they won't be able to reverse these. So this is pretty useful. So that's it. That's a total of 10 level 1s. Next, we're going to go to level 2s. I play 1 of the Changer. So this has a Brainstorm that I have never used. And yeah, so you pay 3, mill 3 cards, and then you can put a card from your waiting room that's a level equal to the number of Brigade Chief that you've milled. I never use that ever. I don't know of a situation where I would ever want to use that. So that's fine. The only reason why you play it is because it's a change for your level 3 Climax combo. So this deck does not have, doesn't push that much soul at level 1, but what you can do is play this. So the change is pay 1, send it to clock if it's rested at the beginning of your encore step, and you can put a Trouble Girl Haruhi onto the stage where this was. The Trouble Girl Haruhi heals. So basically, this is just a pay 1 change to a level 3. So what this ends up giving you is a level 3 climax combo with the door at level 1 for your next turn. So depending on the matchup, there are sometimes where you want to prioritize this. I only play 1, so you do have a lot of mill in this deck, but sometimes you won't get it, and that's fine. I wouldn't recommend playing more than 1, because it's actually not that impactful for every single match. But when you have it, you're pretty happy. You stand by something at level 1, you salvage 2 cards, and you stand by this, and then you change to your level 3, and then you can push more soul with it. Especially if you have a door in hand, then you get, on attack burn 1. It's not that much. But you'll be able to push soul later. Since it's also a 2 soul beater, you'll just be able to try and recoup some of the tempo that you lost by playing a standby at level 1. I only play 1 of these. I really wouldn't recommend playing that many because it's not that impactful. Also, this is a card that you cannot get with the Brainstorm. But I don't even really know why you'd want to play from hand unless you absolutely have to. I play 1 of these. This is a 2/2 Mikuru Assist, so it gives 1,500 to all the characters in front, and then an effect that you rarely play, if you play it from hand, and you have 2 or more other time characters, you can blind stock 1. If you really, really, really need to pay out a climax, sure, why not? There are plenty of other ways to do it. And then this gives 1/5 to the cards in front of it. So this is actually fairly useful to stand by at level 1, because it'll boost this to get it over something. It'll boost these 4 to get them to 7/5, which is pretty respectable given that they can sack themselves. But other things that it can do, for example, is send this to 3/5, which sometimes, if you're facing just a bunch of level 0s, you can front with a bomb and then put this inside the bomb, rest the bomb after. And finally, you can also get this a little bit higher. So if you hit level 1 first, and they still have small level 0s, and you play this, you can actually do things with your level 0s, and for example, save your, or have level 1 bombs in front, and then force them to front level 1 bombs in the next turn. So this is a pretty good card for that, but just for that purpose, or else it's kind of lackluster, and that's why I only play 1. Next, we have this. This is an anti-change clock bomb. So when it's reversed, if the battle opponent is higher level than the opponent's level, kill 1 and send that card to clock. And also has twin drive, so pay 1 and then you trigger twice. This helps get more soul at the end. It helps you trigger standbys when you're level 2, and it deals with early plays because this deck does not deal with early plays too well. But one of the things is that against early plays, what you'll usually do is just ram in anyway. You don't care that much. So this will only take care of early plays that give a lot of extra value at level 2. But early plays that just heal, you don't really care that much about. So I only play 1. This is level 3 assist. So gives 2k to level 3s in front, and then on play, you can ditch 1 and grab Brigade Chief or an SOS Brigade character from Waiting Room. This is just utility. It also gives you power for your level 3s. One of them works on reverse. The others, you might want to have them stay alive. So that's just what it's for. I only play 1. I don't think you need more than 1. Finally, 2 of this level 2. This is a 3/5 counter. That's it. It's Sneaker Bunko and SS Brigade and Brigade Leaders. It has all the traits you would really want. You're really just protecting either the Trouble Girl Haruhi that you brought out at level 1, they hit you to level 2, you can use this. You can also use them to protect these at level 2, because with the 2-2 Mikuru, they're 7-5, and then this gives them, this sends them to 11k. So that's pretty respectable for level 1. And other than that, you're using it to protect your level 3s. I may cut this down to 1, but I feel like it's very matchup dependent, so I'm not too sure yet. I think 1 might be fine, but I play 2 just in case. So that's it for the level 3s. That is 6 level 3s. Oh, sorry, level 2s. Yep. And then level 3s. I play 1 of this card. This is an early play. If you have 2 or less climaxes in waiting room, you can early play it. The opponent cannot play backups during its battle, and it heals. It's 9/5. In this deck, you don't really want to early play. I very rarely early play. But what this can do, if ever you do early play, is push a little bit more soul, which you might need. It'll heal, that's nice. Also, it'll prevent them from playing backups. So you'll usually be able to play this and not care about anti-change backups. That's fine. Also, that's pretty good in the late game. So for example, if they have a free fresh counter or some backup that you don't want them to use, this can be useful. So that's one thing to bear in mind. Depending on the deck you're playing against at level 1 with your climax combo, you might want to grab this or just grab it off of Brainstorm because it could be useful in the late game. But I only play 1. This is one of your heals. One of these. So this heals, and then simple effect. On reverse of its battle opponent, this works during both turns. You can pay 4, sack 1, burn 4. It's okay. It's an extra heal. You can hit it off the Brainstorm. You can stand by it and have it in front of the 2k assist and threaten to burn 4. That's pretty much it. It's non-climax combo tied, so sometimes it'll be just a quick little bit of extra damage that you can push in, but 4 is pretty big, so don't count on it going in too much. I only play 1 of these. Alright, 1 of these. This is a tech, it's very matchup dependent. In some, against some decks you won't want to use it at all. Against others, you absolutely need to prioritize this. You can't grab it off your Brainstorm because it's Alien and Book, so you need to get it off your level 1 combo or salvage it. You don't want to stand by it out because it's absolutely useless. So on play, you can pay 1, and it'll have on reverse heal during this turn. So it can heal, it's expensive, but if you really need to, if you're at 3/6, you can get that heal. And the reason why you play this card is that on play you send all of the opponent's characters to memory, and then you put them back on the field where you want. So this will get rid of things that need to be in the front row, bodyguards, specific board states. If, for example, they crashed everything and had 2 level 3s in the back and want you to overswing, you can bring those 2 in the front. This will mess with the opponent's board state. It's very, very, very powerful if ever you need it. So I play 1, usually know what decks you will need for this. So if you look at the matchups a little bit earlier, you'll think, okay, if I really, really need this card, it'll help me late game, then you just prioritize this over everything else. And once you have it, then you're good. Usually you'll be able to get it unless it's stuck in your stock, or if you're really, really unlucky and you can't find it. But there's a lot of mill in your deck, you'll usually be able to get it. And then 3 of the Trouble Girl. Very simple card. On play, from hand or change, heal 1. On attack with the door, burn 1. Very, very simple card. This is one of your heals, so you'll be using that to gain to try and not die in the late game. But also you'll be probably playing it early if you change from the 2/1. I only play 3. I might bump it up to 4 and remove one of the counters, but you really don't need that many because in this deck, you actually usually don't try and just hog these in hand and then play 3 and finish them. Because as a finisher, it's okay, but it's not super strong. It doesn't have that much reach. And you have more to gain from being able to have it come out early and keep pushing for 2 soul. So it's not necessarily a card that you just want to grab all the time and hog in hand. In the late game, sometimes you'll play 1, maybe 2. But this deck is a little bit more attrition based. So just 3 of the Trouble Girl. Oh, and you cannot. I'm sorry. No, you can get it with the Brainstorm. Yeah. And then finally, this card. This card pretty much kind of makes the deck. So this has -1 soul in front, and then on play you can pay 1, and the opponent cannot play climaxes during the next turn. This card is very good, but it has its bad matchups. Basically, any deck that does not rely on climax combos to finish just laughs at this card. So there are some decks where your game plan is going to look a little bit different because you don't really want to play this because it doesn't do much. In other decks, basically you want to prioritize this card. You want to grab it with your level 1 combo because you can't get it with your Brainstorm. Have either 1 or even 2 in hand. And what this does is, hopefully you don't fall too far behind, even though you're playing Standby at level 1. But if you happen to fall behind, you want to basically hold at level 3. So what this does is whenever you play it, they can't play any climaxes, which means that they can't push as much damage. And they won't be able to use any sort of climax combo. Also, with the -1 soul in front, it means that they can't just really crash. They're going to have to put in bigger characters to try and keep pushing at you. So this card is it can be very good to stand by when you trigger a standby at level 2, because then you have a -1 soul in front wall. Hopefully it's big enough, and that'll prevent you from taking that much damage. But whenever you hit level 3, you usually want to automatically pay 3 stock, drop this, and prevent them from pushing you. So ideally, in this deck, you hold a few of these, 1 or 2. If ever you get hit to 3 earlier, you heal down with one of your heals, 2 of your heals, and then you play this. So you're at 3-0, and they can't play any climaxes. What that usually means is that you're not going to die, usually. And then, depending on how much damage they stick, what you can do is play another heal, and be at 3-1, maybe 3-2, and still not die. So the point of this deck is to have these and to prevent the opponent from using their finishing combo. And then, since you're spending a lot of stock on these, you won't be able to drop 3 of these and kill them. So you're doing incremental damage, and then maybe at the end, you have one of these with the Takitsubo Soul Pump, and you play a climax, and then you can side for 1 and 1, and then just maybe 2 with your level, if you have level 1s or level 0s on the other side, and kill them that way. That's the point of the deck. Now that means that this deck has some very bad matchups. The weaknesses of the deck are that at level 0, oversizes completely wall you out, which means that you won't be plussing with your Mikuru, which means that you might have to hurt yourself, take more damage with the Rikis and the Takitsubos to keep up in hand. Level 1 cards that wall very high and that happen to be level 2 are going to be a huge problem for the deck. So then you're going to just try and push soul damage because you won't be able to plus with your level 1 combo. Level 2 cards that, for example, if ever they take 1 damage, top check, and then they can mill that. If ever you go against a bunch of those, you're going to cry. You won't be able to do much. And then finally, level 3, if they do not care about climax combos, if they're fully climax combo-less for their finishing, or they have a different game plan, then you can't really do much. If they have a defensive game plan, this deck does not do that much either. But those are kind of rare, so that's fine. And then finally, climax spread, standby, and door. This is the Haruhi deck I'm playing. I'm still looking. I might change this. I might change a few of the ratios, but I think I'm pretty happy with what it looks like right now. I don't think that this is one of the top tier decks at all, but I don't think it's bad. I have a hard time trying to place it in a tier. I think it's really very much meta dependent. Depends on what your meta looks like, because if a lot of the decks are playing standby and playing slow and have a climax combo finisher, you're absolutely fine with playing against that. If you're going against a bunch of decks that are pushing lots of damage early, for example, that have a lot of bars and that have a climax combo list finisher, then you're going to cry, especially if they have oversized at level 0. You can't really do that much. So I think this deck really depends on your local meta. I have WGP in 4 days. I am thinking about maybe taking this to WGP. Not too sure yet. But this is a deck that's very, very fun to play. Some cards may be slightly expensive. The power-up sets are completely gone, so getting those cards are... The Reiki, I think, is pretty expensive. But it's a lot of fun to play, and not that many people play it or have it. So you're going to surprise a few people. If ever you just take it to locals and are like, oh, what does this do? That should be fun. If you don't think that you'll have that many counters, that many decks that work really well against it, then I think this deck can do well and surprise a few people. I really might just take it to WGP. So that's it. If you guys have any questions, you can just leave a comment. You can also find me on the Weiss Schwarz Discords. I'm Honey Thief, and I'm going to try and get a few more deck profiles out. And that's it. Have a good day, guys.